Extra, extra, read all about it. Kristen Barbaresi has gone on to Twitter and has informed us just in. State files motion in Kyle Rittenhouse case. Prosecutors want to admit prior acts, including accusation that Rittenhouse assaulted a woman in July 2020 and that he is associated with the Proud Boys. All motions are set to be argued September 17th. That smells like desperation. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnnie Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnnie Walker Dread Show.
Okay, so what does this concern? That fight that Kyle had at the waterfront where he hit that girl. As well as the old thing with being serenaded at Pudgy's by the Proud Boys. There was also an event that occurred in Miami where he was at a meeting with the leader of the Proud Boys movement. It looks like Kyle and his mother didn't even know who the guy was. Whatever the case, well, we'll talk about that in a moment. Let's talk about the fight. Okay, so if I'm Judge Schroeder, I'm going to ask a very fundamental question. What's the connection between the fight and the charges? Now remember, Kyle is being tried for reckless homicide and first-degree intentional homicide. Well, those are the major ones, okay? So they're the only ones that we will concern ourselves with. And what are the elements of those charges? Well, with reckless homicide, which was the shooting of Joseph Rosenbaum, the elements are basically that he fired in reckless abandon without regard for human life. He was irresponsible in the way he handled his weapon, things like that. Okay? What does that have to do with the fight at the waterfront a month earlier? I have no idea. What's he getting at? Now, if the girl that he was slugging happened to be Joseph Rosenbaum's sister, okay, that might be something. Of course, that would raise the charge to intentional homicide, not reckless. So maybe she's Anthony Huber's sister. No. I don't know. I don't get it. Now keep in mind, if Binger manages to get this thing by Schroeder, and he's going to put people on the stand that are going to describe what they see on videotape, probably a detective, that allows the defense to put McKenzie on the stand, and she gets to go up there and talk about how her brother defended her that day, and that her brother always defends her. He's always there for the family. He takes jobs to make money when the rest of us can't afford to make rent and all that stuff. She'll have the jury crying. Oh, Kyle's like the brother that I never had. So you really want to do that, Binger? Okay. Keep in mind, and this is something that Binger's got to be wary of. The defense gets to fire back. They get to put their own witnesses. If the fight becomes connected somehow to the shootings, they get to put their own witnesses up there. Also, just as a note here, nobody was arrested there, and there was never any official declaration of wrongdoing. Kyle was never declared to have done anything wrong. So you could turn this thing into a whole week of back and forth. Why did the fight start? Well, it was because McKenzie called me a nasty name. Old McKenzie's on the stand, so he's saying, no, that's not what happened. She looked at me funny like. And you really want to have this go back and forth, Schroeder? I mean, really? So, yeah, I don't see this going anywhere. I think Judge Schroeder is going to shoot this thing down and saying, look, to have a fair trial for the defendant, the evidence that is presented has to have a connection to the actual elements of the crime. I don't see it here. Just being a meanie is not enough, especially when it comes to reckless homicide. Binger's going to have to show that Kyle shot Joseph Rosenbaum but didn't need to, and that this shooting was a result because of Kyle's complete disregard for human life. That's the elements of that crime. And he has to prove that beyond reasonable doubt. And he has to prove beyond reasonable doubt that Kyle did not act in self-defense. pretty tall order. And I don't think that introducing a fight that took place a month prior that has no connection whatsoever to the Kenosha shootings is going to get Binger anywhere. I think this is a real act of desperation here. And I think that Binger is trying to get Kyle up on the stand. He figures that if he can slander Kyle enough on the stands there with his other witnesses, that Kyle will have to take the stand to defend his honor. And that would score a win for the prosecution, but I don't see it happening. What about the Proud Boys deal? Well, if he can show that there was a Proud Boys connection prior to the shootings and that this connection somehow had an effect on the shootings, okay. Do we have any such evidence? Binger might, but I highly, highly doubt it. That whole thing with Pudgy's and the meeting in Miami happened after the fact. You have to show that there's a connection between Kyle Rittenhouse's connection to these groups and the actual shootings, and I don't see it. Does anybody really think that Kyle shot Joseph Rosenbaum out of something going with the Proud Boys? What about Huber and Grosskreutz? Does anybody really think that it was Kyle's connection with the white supremacist group that led to that? He was being chased. It had nothing to do with any Proud Boys connection. So I think Judge Schroeder will throw this out. There is no nexus to the actual events, and this comes off as character assassination and really nothing more. Going back to the fist fight, if Kyle's behavior in terms of how he treats women is judged by Schroeder as being connected to the shootings, what about Joseph Rosenbaum's connection with women? What about Huber and Grosskreutz? All three of them have been charged with crimes against women and convictions. Kyle never has. Kyle was never arrested for the fight, and yet Huber, Grosskreutz, and Rosenbaum all have convictions prior to this. Actually, Rosenbaum, he assaulted his fiancée, but I don't think he was actually convicted of that because Kyle shot him first. Keep in mind, they would be able to put that fiancée on the stand. And so you see where this could go, and I don't think that anybody wants any of that. Schroeder's not going to want that. Whether or not Huber and Grosskreutz and Rosenbaum attacked women prior to this event has no connection whatsoever to what took place that night. So any testimony about those events will also be thrown out. So we'll find out on September 17th what's going to take place here. In my opinion, it doesn't really look like Binger has a whole lot going on here. If the judge throws this out, perhaps at that time, Binger might dismiss the charges, saying, with the way that the judge is conducting this trial, there's no way that we can get a conviction. He's not allowing us to present the evidence we need. This is a racist court. Well, he has to be careful about that. He could get thrown in jail for that kind of stuff. But he could throw up a big old stink about how unfair the system is and won't allow him to present his case, and we're going to have to drop charges. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it's looking. Maybe that'll happen. I don't know. Like my video, subscribe to my channel.